Former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez hit the headlines back in February as he was arrested on attempted murder charges. The legendary mixed martial artist had learned his son was being molested by a man known as Harry Goularte, but ended up shooting the wrong man in the confusion. Today we're discussing how Cain has become the most searched MMA athlete in 2022, plus his return to the ring. Stay with us. Let's jump right in. What's the latest with the legal case? Velasquez was granted bail recently after 3 previous attempts by his legal team to have him released were refused. The ongoing court case resulted from Cain shooting one Paul Bender, the stepfather of the man accused with molesting Velasquez's infant son at a daycare center. Velasquez is facing 20 years in jail if convicted of attempted murder, but hopefully his legal representation will be able to successfully argue in his defense. I mean, he was only doing what any father the world over would have surely done. Speaking to MMA Junkie recently, Cain's attorney Mark Garagos refused to predict the outcome of the case, but did suggest that the judge in charge of the case appears to believe Cain has a viable defense. Garagos added that those were the magic words in the criminal law, but did admit that they are facing an uphill battle. Explaining that Velasquez could benefit from the heat of passion defense, Garagos suggested that could negate the malice element, which will hopefully reduce the punishment somewhat. He continued, and that's why both judges have commented that he's got a viable defense here, because there is a heat of passion defense, and the heat of passion defense and the jury instructions are such that both judicial officers commented that he's got a viable defense to the accusations, before then suggesting he wouldn't be surprised if Cain was acquitted. Here's hoping, right? What do you make of the whole situation? Dana White has chimed in on Cain next. Cain Velasquez has seen an incredible outpouring of support since first being arrested for trying to shoot the man accused of molesting his son earlier this year, and now his former boss Dana White has spoken out about the former heavyweight champ. Of course, most people believe Cain should be given a medal for what he did. It's just unfortunate he shot the wrong person. He spent the 8 months directly after the incident in prison, but was released on bail a few weeks back, and Dana has explained how deep down, Cain Velasquez is a good person. Cain has been ordered to stay at least 300 yards away from Goularte, his stepfather, and his mother, but if Goularte had stayed away from Cain's son in the first place, none of this would have happened. Speaking to TMZ recently, Dana explained, "I'm happy for him and his family to be finally back together," before going on to say, "Cain Velasquez is a good man, he's a good person, and I'm hoping the judge that looked at this case said, you know what, this family has suffered enough." White then explained that Cain's kids have been through a lot of late, not least for what happened to his son, but for them to have their father taken away for almost a year. The UFC boss then went on to say, hopefully the real justice gets served in this case, and Cain Velasquez gets to be home with his family, and we couldn't agree more. A former opponent's been speaking about what a loss to Cain meant for him now. Brock Lesnar took on Cain back in 2010 at UFC 121, in what was the 3rd defense of his UFC heavyweight title. However, it didn't go his way, and Velasquez handed Lesnar his 2nd professional loss by way of TKO. Lesnar was one of the most terrifying men to ever step into the octagon, but he met his match and then some when he came up against Cain, with Velasquez outclassing Lesnar, and Brock has since revisited that night when he lost his title in the first round, explaining that he knows why he was beaten. In his autobiography, Lesnar acknowledged that, on that night, in that arena, Cain Velasquez was a better fighter than I was. He went on to say, there's an old expression about falling off a horse. You get back on, and you ride that bad boy into town. I'm not saying I'm happy about losing the UFC title, but I am saying it helped me focus again on how much I want to be champion. Of course, adversity can often spur athletes on to improve or at least carry on, and Lesnar went on to forge a hugely impressive career in the WWE, as he returned to the organization shortly after the Cain fight. Give us your thoughts on Cain defeating Lesnar below. News of a significant heavyweight bout from UFC 282 this past weekend now. Stay with us. Surinamese heavyweight Jarinzo Rozenstruik returned to winning ways on the prelims at UFC 282 this weekend, taking out Chris Daukaus in a fight that could have ramifications for the top 10 of the division. Rozenstruik, who had lost his previous 2 coming in, knocked his opponent out just 23 seconds after the fight began to get on track, and firing a message to those above him in the title picture after the bout, the South American said, "I'll say, top 5 heavyweights, don't get too comfortable, and as I say, I put a lot of work into what I do, and like how the past few fights have been going, I'm back in the win column." However, Biggie Boy has come unstuck every time he's come up against those truly elite heavyweights. minutes, and has been beaten by Curtis and Cyril and was flatlined by Francis in just 20 seconds. And speaking about his opponent after the fight, Rosenstruck suggested that he holds nothing against him and is even rooting for him in his next bout. However, the likelihood of Jairzinho threatening the guys at the very top of the division is slim. What do you guys think? Dana White has given his thoughts on the 3 scariest UFC fighters he's ever worked with next. The UFC boss recently appeared on Paddy Pimblett's Chat and Pony podcast, where the pair discussed all sorts of things, not least one Ariel Helwani, who they went in on. However, Helwani aside, they also discussed who Dana viewed as the 3 scariest fighters he's ever worked with. Of course, there's an argument from the regular Joe that all UFC fighters are somewhat scary, but White believes some are scarier than others, which is probably correct. And it probably won't shock many people to learn that Derek Lewis tops the boss's list, with Dana explaining, "Always when you're effing around with the heavyweights, like Derek Lewis," before adding, "When Derek Lewis comes to a stare down, the only thing that makes him even a little bit not scary is that he actually has a sense of humor. He's funny sometimes." White then explained that John Jones and newly crowned middleweight champion Alex Pereira make up the rest of the top 3, calling Jones a freak of nature and Pereira a stone-cold kill. Give us your top 3 scariest below. So, what about Cain becoming the most searched MMA personality this year? Many things have been going on in the world of MMA this year, with multiple belts changing hands in a sport that features some huge personalities such as Paddy Pimblett and Conor McGregor. It's safe to say we probably wouldn't have expected Cain Velasquez to be the most searched MMA athlete in 2022 at the beginning of the year. Amongst the most searched athletes in the world, Velasquez has had a very trying year considering his legal troubles, and he was searched even more times than British boxing superstar Tyson Fury. However, this year was the very first time since 2018 in which a UFC personality has appeared on the list, since Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Of course, Cain's situation is a little different from most on the list, considering what has happened in his personal life. His high-profile arrest has prompted his fans to continually search for news and updates about his status. The story instantly went viral, and many people, not just around the world of MMA but everywhere, wanted to know everything about the case. There was also plenty of support for the former champ, as parents everywhere empathized with the situation. The intended target was the one Harry Goularte, who's accused of molesting Cain's son more than 100 times, which, if true, is a shame. Cain unfortunately shot the wrong man. Personalities such as Khabib, Luke Rockhold, and Dana have all come out in support of Cain, so hopefully the case is thrown out. And finally, Cain has made his first combat sports appearance since his arrest. Cain returned to the ring for the first time since being released on bail at the beginning of the month, to rapturous applause from fans. The former UFC heavyweight made an appearance at Lucha Libre AAA at the Mullet Arena at Arizona State University this past weekend. In his first public appearance since the high-profile case, Velasquez took part in a 3-on-3 matchup and was greeted with a standing ovation due to what has transpired this year. Cain actually addressed the crowd to kick off proceedings, saying, "To be here in front of you guys right now, it's a dream come true. I truly appreciate it all, what you guys have always done, supporting me, my family." Of course, Cain is now out after a judge granted $1 million bail, and it seems like he's back to doing what he does best. He first appeared for the Lucha Libre organization in 2019, and it didn't take him long to get back into the swing of things, as he was responsible for the winning pin which went down, as you might imagine considering everything he's been through in 2022. After the match ended, Cain jumped back on the mic to thank the crowd again, delivering one final message: "Never stop believing, never stop fighting." A truly great story. What do you guys make of Cain's return to action? As usual, thanks for dropping in on us today, and remember to swing by again next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also sharing it with any MMA heads you know of. Bye guys!